Hello and welcome to my video lesson 4.4 on PSA Factoring. Just updating this as my last copy had a very low quality, but it's the same question, so if you watched it already, feel free to skip this. Factor fully. So we have, we're trying to factor using PSA, product sum answer. We've got product sum answer written down on the side here. The second number is going to be, I'm going to use actually a different color. Second number is going to be the product. This is including whatever sign that it has. And the middle number is going to be, or middle number is going to be the sum. So you're going to come up with two numbers that multiply to get 6 and add to get 5. Now this is where one of the previous videos, like the divisibility rules, might be helpful. Now these ones are pretty easy. 1 times 6 is 6, 2 times 3 is 6. Those are all the combinations. And since they are both positive here, both of our numbers have to be positive and adding. So because these are both positive, here's a cool little rule for you guys. Because these are both positive, that means our answers are both going to be positive. So 1 plus 6 is 7, 2 plus 3 is 5, so this is the right set. So 3, 2, and 3 and 2. So then we can write x plus 2, x plus 3. And if you're ever unsure if you've done it correctly, this is what we say when we say factor and verify. This is the verifying step. Basically just FOIL this out using the expanding rules from the previous video, like 4.2 or something, or 4.1. So this would be like that. Then you'd go down here. Then you would go like this. And you can see that it gives you the same as the beginning, which means that you've done this correctly. All right, let's continue on to our second set. So we've got PSA written. Normally we don't write product sum answer, but PSA might be helpful to always write. So I'm going to do this just like this for all these videos, but moving forward, I'm actually probably just going to skip ahead. I'll just talk it through, but I won't write all this stuff down. I would like you guys to write this down to show your work in 10C, but moving forward into 20-1 or probably 20-2, I also wouldn't care about showing your work here. So anyways, 6 is going to be 1 and 6, 2 and 3. What you're going to notice here is that we have a negative here, which means one of the two numbers is negative, which means we're going to subtract between the two. So because that's a negative up there, we're going to subtract. So it's going to be 5 and 5. 5 and 1. So it has to be 2 and 3. 2 and 3. Which one's going to be negative though? One of them has to be negative. This one here has to be negative. How do you know that? Because this is positive, telling you that that has to be the negative one, and the bigger number has to be positive. Okay, so x minus 2 and x plus 3. Okay, we're not going to verify anymore, but you certainly can check your answers with that. I recommend you pause the video right now and try the next two questions if you can. Okay, let's go ahead and try these out. We're going to do PSA. The product is 2. The sum is negative 3. So the only two numbers that work are 2 and 1. There's no option. And since this is adding, that means like a positive value, it can these have to be adding together. So it gets 3, which makes sense. So it has to be 1 and 2. But since it's a negative 3, we're going to notice that it's negative inside here. So when it has positive, negative and then positive like that, you'll notice it's always going to be double negative. So we're going to have x minus 1 and x minus 2. All right, let's do another example here. We've got PSA. Would like if we had a double negative version, but that's okay. We're going to have one later on in the video. So 30 and negative 13. Maybe I'll say just for now, if you have a double negative, that means it's going to be subtracting. Okay, so this was adding, right? This was adding. And this was subtracting. If you had a double negative, you'd also subtract, but the bigger number is negative. Okay, just interesting. Okay, so let's anyways continue here with this question. So we've got a product of 30 and a sum of negative 13. So we need to come up with the numbers that multiply to get 30. So 1 and 30, 2 and 15, 3 and 10, not 4, but 5 and 6. Okay, remember our divisibility rules from that video and how to make this quickly. Okay, and multiplication times tables, like seriously, that helps a lot. My hint to you is I always start down here with the ones that are in the halfway point or in the middle or whatever you want to call it, because those are more likely to be the ones that the teacher made the question about, but you can start wherever you want. So since this is a plus here, that means we're going to add. Okay, so when we add this, we get 11, that doesn't work. We get 13, that does work. We get 17, and we get 31. Therefore, it must be 3 and 10, 3 and 10, but because it gives you negative 13, it'll be negatives everywhere. So our final answer is x minus 3 and x minus 10. All right, here is a more challenging question because it has a GCF first, and if possible, you always do GCF first. Okay, so actually, before we do that, let's do the GCF first. We're going to take out a 2 everywhere, so we divide by 2 in every location. Now that we've done that, now we can do PSA. So the product is negative 9. The sum is negative 8. Here you go. Here's going to be one that has a double negative. So you're going to see that because it has the negative here, we have to subtract instead of adding. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a second. But anyways, we're looking for either 1 and 9 or 3 and 3. And since we have to subtract, right, that's what we found out in green over here. This will be 0, and this would be 8, which means that we're going to use 1 and 9, 1 and 9. And since the answer inside here is negative, therefore our bigger number has to be negative. Writing all this stuff down one more time, x plus 1 and x minus 9, but we cannot forget to include our GCF of 2. We just put that out in front. So our final answer looks like this. All right, I'm going to just move this down so you can see all the last couple questions right now. Okay, and I highly recommend that you pause the video here and try it for yourself. All right, I'm just going to write PSA here, giving you a chance to pause each of these, or the video here for each of these. I'm just building the building blocks for every question. Okay, so let's start it. We've got negative 10 here and 3. we're going to do this nice and quickly here. I'm not going to do my chart on the side. I'm just going to write the numbers right away. So this would be 5 and 2. The 2 has to be the negative. So it's x plus 5 and x minus 2. Okay, the next one here is going to be negative 12 and negative 1. So adding to get negative 1, multiplying to get the negative 12. So we're going to have negative 4 and 3. Negative 4 and 3. I do want to just quickly mention here that it doesn't matter the order. We could write it like this, or we could write it like this, and it doesn't actually affect the answer. If you expand both out, they do work out the same. So you'll notice that it doesn't matter the order. Okay, over here we've got 24 and negative 14. So two numbers that multiply to get 24 and add to get 14. We have 12 and 2, and if they're both negative, they get 14. So it's x minus 12 and x minus 2. Again, you can go through the process of the chart, and it will help you out a lot, especially for a number like 24, where there's so many different options. Maybe I'll just show how many options there are for 24. Okay, that's all the options. So it's a lot of options, so because of that, it might be helpful to go through the chart. But anyways, let's continue. We have 18 and 9. So two numbers that multiply to get 18, and two numbers that add to get 9. We have, again, a few options for 18. 1 and 18, 2 and 9, 3 and 6. 4 doesn't work, 5 doesn't work. Yeah, so that's all of them. Okay, so there are a few options, but since we're adding them, it has to be 3 and 6, 3 and 6. So it is x plus 3 and x plus 6. All right, last question here. Notice again that we should GCF first, okay? But also notice that this is a high degree term and we've got a negative in front. We cannot have that, so we're actually going to take a GCF of negative 3 out. So negative 3 divided by negative 3 gets positive 1. Negative 6 divided by negative 3 gets positive 2. Positive 24 divided by negative 3 gets negative 8. Now we can do PSA. So the product is negative 8. The sum is 2. So we're going to multiply to get negative 8 and add to get 2. So we're going to have 4 and negative 2, 4 and negative 2. So our answer is going to have the negative 3 in front from the GCF, x plus 4, x minus 2. And that is our final answer. So I hope this video helped you better understand PSA factoring, and good luck.